And the way we look at it is that Europe needs to step up, and it needs to stop taking mom and dad's money, and it needs to pay in a little bit more of its own and kind of put its own house in order.
We visited the heart of America, the capital of Washington, D.C., to understand the intentions Donald Trump's presidency has towards the new Italian populist government. Is there a new friendship developing? What interests do the two populist countries share now? We interviewed journalists and analysts on Trump's side of the aisle to have a different perspective from the mainstream.
For our Italian audience watching, how does the United States or the White House see Europe? Does it see Europe as a strategic partner, as sort of, the founding of this country in a sense, in terms of ancestry and values? What is the perspective?
For the president, he looks at it as kind of a dilettantish, older brother, as in, they're our family, we have deep ties, but they've gotten a little bit used to too much of the benefits of the United States, of the liberal world order that the United States created. And the way we look at it is that Europe needs to step up, and it needs to stop taking mom and dad's money, and it needs to pay in a little bit more of its own and kind of put its own house in order.
But certainly I think President Trump feels a degree of sympathy with what's happening in Italy right now, with the sense that there is a rising populism in Italy, and that Donald Trump can relate to that, and that he feels, this is a movement that has certain parallels to his own base of support in the United States. The U.S. and elsewhere as well, there is this rising sense that there is a rejection of globalism, liberalism, a kind of administrative oversight or ruling by a certain class of people who may be detached from what the actual public really wants, whether it's in Italy or the U.S. or elsewhere.
A shift towards Italy is very much in the cards. You've seen members of his administration, most notably the ambassador to Germany, Rick Grenell, explicitly encourage populist parties in Europe, which is something that you generally don't see ambassadors do, or even high-ranking State Department officials.
Trump has repeatedly said that he thinks that European culture is changing with immigration, and he seems very concerned with what is happening in Europe. Why do you think Trump is so concerned with the immigration problem in Europe?
So Donald Trump very much feels, I think, a degree of sympathy with immigration restriction movements in Italy and elsewhere as well. Increasing terrorism perhaps in Europe with influxes of immigration from non-European areas of the world.
With the president is that he deeply respects the Italian Prime Minister because of his position on immigration. So President Trump obviously is somebody who deeply resents what's going on in Europe. He does not agree with the Merkel open door policy to refugees, and he sees it as a fundamental weakness and one of the reasons that drove Brexit. So one of the things that he really respects within Europe is the election of populist leaders, and particularly in Italy.
And the European countries that he's visited and spent some time in are increasingly not looking like the places that he grew up with.
In terms of Donald Trump's position with regards to the European Union, it's no secret that he isn't really a fan of the European Union. He supported Brexit during his campaign. Do you think that he would like to see the European Union end as a project?
I think so. That's kind of one of the. I think he would probably like to see it end in its current form, in its huge bloc with the power to extract such major trade concessions in his mind. But I think he really does believe in some sort of European alliance. I mean, and even in Europe, as I understand it, you can correct me if I'm wrong, people aren't necessarily anti-EU, they're anti-EU in its current form, in this kind of giant... Yeah, they're anti-Brussels, or they're anti-Germany dominating the entire continent at its expense.
It seems to me that the Trump administration really does want to put particular pressure on Germany, especially with regard to German defense spending and Germany's general posture within NATO and within the European Union.
Theoretically and philosophically, this is a nation-state kind of president, deeply skeptical of Brussels.